Welcome to another episode of Driving to the Reds with your favorite hosts, Larry and Inelia. Ta-da, 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 ta-da. Yep, pretty easy that time.
Yeah.
Probably because we waited I think it's because we waited so long in the week that it's built up. We already practiced because it's maybe Sunday and we're supposed to do this on Thursday.
Yeah.
Or Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday,
Thursday, Friday. Yeah. 5 days late.
We're not giving our team much time.
No, tomorrow post it, guys, in the morning. Yeah. You have 12 hours.
Less probably by the time we get it.
So we better get it good in one take.
Yeah, because Inelia sleeps most of the time.
Well, most of the time that we're awake, yeah, he's asleep.
Yeah, I'm just teasing Inelia. He's always asleep, man.
He's always asleep. I don't know how he has time to do anything.
Yeah, because when we're asleep, he's awake.
Yeah. We got the world covered 24 hours. Mm-hmm. So, why?
Would you like to share why there's so many barkies and meowies?
Sure, that's a good why. Why is there a lot of barkies and meowies?
Because we have
Brad and Peavy, and they look exactly the same except for a cat version and a dog version. Same color.
Yeah.
Oh.
They're jumping on each other.
Brad's tackling the dog, the dog's tackling Brad. It's dog chase cat, now cat chase dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why you may hear a pitter patter, and a meow, and a ruff.
Yeah.
It's too cute to break it up.
I know.
And we don't want to kick them out.
They're very cute.
So there's more whys, though. That's kind of an interesting topic, the why. When I say why?
Why?
Why? Oh, why? There's a lot of whys. Mm-hmm. Like, why did this thing happen to me?
Right.
It's all worked. It was for the best, right?
Yeah,
so I mean, I know you have a little about that, but for me, when I look at why something happened, I generally try to look for a good thing,
and just about every other light worker on the planet.
It happened. Now, what can I make out of this? Lemons squishing lemonade, that kind of thing, We've been trained to
look at
no
the
matter
positive,
the situation, look at the positive part of it.
And the silver lining.
The silver lining, yeah. So my car got a flat tire. Well, that's probably a good thing because I might have gotten a crash and it slowed me down.
Yeah.
That's our default. Our default why things happen is for a good reason because the universe I live in is here to support me. Yeah,
but also because generally speaking, we're from a light universe.
Mm-hmm.
This planet is naturally a light planet. Mm-hmm. And in the natural state of things, the whys would always be positive. But that has been exploited by the dark paradigm people and beings to inject their nastiness and say, it's for a good reason.
So why is light positive and dark destructive? I mean, it just seems too convenient. Light, dark, good, evil. I mean, come on, guys.
What?
It just seems too convenient.
What
everything dark is evil, and everything light is not evil.
It's not that. It's the other way around.
Everything light is evil, and everything dark is not evil?
No, not that way around.
Oh.
We allocate darkness to evil things, and we allocate light to good things.
Yeah, well, it's like my tire goes flat, so that's dark. Like,
I think
everything bum is a dark thing? Come on now.
I think the tire thing is a little bit too,
Too light?
Too subjective?
Too light.
Too subjective?
Well, it's too subjective because it could be part of an orchestration in a sense, or it could be just a
I think that murder and sexual abuse or partners who abuse each other, wife beating, husband beating, the rape of children, that's darkness. I think that's what I'm talking about. I think that's what we're talking about. And that's what people are talking about when they say, it was good for you. When they tell a little child, that child just got raped. Oh, it's good for you. It's going to make you a compassionate person when you grow up.
Well, that's what I mean, is that
that's an unmistakably evil.
Unmistakably dark.
And it's nothing good about it. And it's there just to subdue that child.
As a flat tire.
It's just to subdue that child, right? and to darken their light, to put out their light. That's what it's done for.
Okay, I understand, and said that way it's clear. But the thing is
that's what we're talking about. The rest is irrelevant.
It's not. No, it's not irrelevant because there's these levels of gray, right? So
not really.
No, there is in people's minds. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Maybe in your mind it's very clear. It's like that's obvious as, I don't know, it's light out today or dark out today. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's light out today and dark out tonight. It's like, it's obvious. What do you mean? But to the rest of us, when we look at something like a flat tire or a car accident, or let's say I stubbed my toe, so I didn't walk out the door, so it orchestrated a higher, lighter day for me because there was a pile up on the freeway that I got to avoid, those kind of things, orchestrations. I at least look at situations that may not be positive at first judgment, that actually are positive in the complete orchestration because the universe supports us. And I don't look at child abuse or child rape or torturous death as close to that type of orchestration. That is simply
I think
darkness.
that a lot of individuals will theorize darkness and light in that manner, though. Mm-hmm. I've been in so many interviews where people say, "Oh, if you send enough light to the darkness, it's going to cure itself and it's going to become good because it's just through suffering and blah blah blah." And then I say, "Okay, so what you're saying to me is that if you had a friend who was being physically abused by their wife or their husband, you just told them you love that husband enough, send him enough love and light, and he's going to stop." Is that what you're saying? And they all say, no, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. Mm-hmm. No, they should leave that person. Right?
Why should they leave that person?
Exactly, right? So I'm not talking about theoretically. Right? I'm not talking about theoretically. I'm talking about real evil on the planet. And real evil is not about a flat tire or a car accident. That's not real evil. Okay?
Exactly, but...
No buts.
The but that I'm trying to give to you is so that you understand it.
And you do have a very cute butt.
Why, thank you. I ride a bike for that. Well, I used to ride a bike a lot more for that. Anyway, what was I talking about?
You?
Me?
I just redirected you.
That was so easy.
I know, it's so easy to redirect you.
So, back to what I was talking about.
Your butt.
Not that. Did you write it down?
You actually said it, but I was talking about my butt.
Beavis and Butthead here.
He said butt.
Oh my gosh. So, you pulled the topic sideways pretty fast, lady.
You're talking about subjective
well, what I'm trying to say is that
like flat tires.
When people try to justify things, they will use a lighter version of something that's terribly evil to try to say like this, like this, like this, like this, to try and find the boundary where it's between light and dark. This is dark, this is light. To try to define that line. So when we're talking about why dark, why light, dark, where is that line between light and dark? It's not a dark thing to have an orchestration with a flat tire in it when you're in light and the universe is supporting you and etc. Of course you could say, well, why didn't you just get some information for your guide? Say, hey, just hang out at the house for a minute and drink some tea and have a bit of chocolate. You don't really need a flat tire.
I have an example of that.
Okay.
I have an example of that. So I lived in Chile, and the road where I lived, my front door opened up to the sidewalk, and it was a road that, in a junction, that had many accidents. Anyways, one day I was getting ready to leave, and I had my bag, my backpack, and everything ready, and I go to the front door, and I grab the handle, and I just stop for no reason. Mm-hmm. And it's like I was standing there holding the handle, 1, 2, 3, and crash and really loud noises, right? Mm-hmm. I opened the door and I look, and a van had crashed in the corner with a car, and the van had gone sliding across my front wall, and if I had not stopped and paused that second, I would have been on that sidewalk as the van smashed in front of my door. So that's an example. I didn't have to stub my toe. I didn't have to have an accident in the house. Nothing stopped me. Just me stopped me. My higher self and the human collective stopped me. I held that handle for no reason without opening the door in a random day.
Sure.
So that's possible too. That happens all the time.
Right. And part of the believable story for you is, oh, I'm going to pause here because I have...
Nothing. There was no thoughts in my head. Nothing.
You just paused.
Just stopped. I didn't even know why actually the thoughts in my head. So, why am I not moving? Why am I not opening this door? That was the thought that was going in my head.
Well.
At the time, I thought it was really bizarre. Like, why would I freeze in front of my door as I was holding the handle?
The first question was, why do bad things happen to good people? Basically, why do unfortunate circumstances like a flat tire happen? And the tendency is to call them, this happened for a good reason. And the good reason is some orchestration, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not a dark thing to have a flat tire. A dark thing is to be, like you said, have that actual dark experience and then say that was for a good reason.
Right.
And that is what you mean when you say those are for no other reason than to
disable you.
A flat tire isn't for no other reason than disable you. It's just a part of today, and it happened yesterday, and it happened the next day, and it slowed you down. And if you were of the mindset that gets upset and angry, it could push you into a low frequency state, or it could be that you have the ability to respond instead of just react through the processes that you teach. Right. And so you get a flat tire. Big deal.
Exactly. It's not a big deal. It's not light or dark. It's just
not a dark thing. It's just a thing that happened. Yeah. Now how you react,
that's your choice.
Or respond. Yeah.
And that's how you bring in light or darkness.
That's how you bring in light or darkness, right?
Exactly.
So I wanted to make that clear because it isn't as clear as you might think it is.
Okay.
Because when you start to lump in flat tires with child abusing, murder, whatever,
it's not the same.
They're so far apart, they're not even in the same universe. So when we talk about light and dark, that's what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Not
war, enslavement, power over others.
Even a regular death isn't a dark thing.
No.
A death is just
a transition into
another experience, and from there 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 another. It's a continuous set of experiences, not a start or an end.
Correct.
It's just a continuous experience. Yeah. It continues in a different state. Mm-hmm. And then it comes into another state, and then it goes into another state, and then time is different, and all kinds of things are different. But I guess we almost always look at death from this state. From this state, we look at death as being negative in some way. But it's like you didn't walk out the door and die. Well, big deal. Why not?
I don't know. Obviously, because I had to do the empowering of the masses later on.
Right. Because it wasn't time to leave.
Yeah. I wasn't attached to life in any particular way, or I was attached to it in any particular way.
Right. And so that that attitude about death could be important in handling things that come, right? Mm-hmm. Because we often think of death as traumatic.
Right. Well, I have a class around that.
And what's that called?
Death the Unspoken Truth. It's on ineliabenz.com /store. You can find it there. And it talks about about the death part.
That would be a good idea. Yeah. I think brush up your skills on death.
Why?
Why? Well, it seems like when change comes, like it seems like there's a revolution brewing. Yeah. Revolutions in the cities and absences of food.
It was weird because a few years ago, a year or 2 or 3, I can't remember when I created that class, I got a lot of messages emails and things from people saying, why are you making this class now? What's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening? Why are you making this class, you know? And it's just one of those, the Human Collective said, hey, you need to make a class about this. It's very important. I said, okay. So I did, right? And now we know why. The why. Retrospect.
Well, we suspect we know why.
Well, we already seen it in our own environment. I mean,
it's true,
yeah.
But not to the scale that a class is
not
necessary.
To the same scale.
But when the scale alters,
they're starting to release the numbers, although they're blaming them on non-vaccinated individuals, they're non-jabbed individuals. They are releasing the numbers, right? And they're saying, oh, you know, there's another wave, which we talked about, right? July, August.
Yeah, July, August. It's July, August right now. Yeah. So the next part comes, and it's been popping. Yeah. Everywhere you look, every now and then, there's another pop. It's like, ooh, look at that. Yeah. That might be it. Oh, no, that's what they're... It's like multiple places have multiple things. As you said before, it's like, guess what? It's the end of the world if you lived there.
Yes.
And that's true. I watched a video of the subways in China. They had a giant flood and 3 dams busted and all that. And people were in the subway. And the water is 3/4 of the way up the windows.
Right.
They didn't get out of there.
Yeah.
You can't get out of there.
So for them, it was the end of the world.
It was the end of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, so that type of thing, you know, it's very...
Is that end of the world dark? I mean, if anybody leaves now, is that because they want to be part of the dark world, or is that just because they don't want to experience maybe?
No, the choice is very specific. You have to do it by your own hand. And even though theoretically everybody chooses when they die, it's like a choice and a program, but it's not like a choice to what experience you're going to have from now on.
Yeah, your death doesn't necessarily dictate, I'm dying right now because I want to go into a dark light world.
Exactly. Most of the time it doesn't mean that at all.
But some could.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's another why involved in this whole process. Why be alive now? And why not die now?
Right. That's really important.
That's the most important why to me and to you, maybe.
And attached to that, I want to talk about what the President of the United States said about how many people are dying of COVID nowadays, and children or whatever, and it's the non-vaccinated people who are killing them. And he wasn't those words exactly, but he said those words.
Right? Yeah, he said the unvaccinated are killing everyone.
Yeah. So that is there especially to put people who are not vaccinated into fear. Okay, it's especially done that way, so you can see a pattern of, oh my goodness, if he's saying that, then next, you know, they're going to be jailed for murder or forced to vaccinate or attacked in the street by other people and their neighbors, and you see all that fear, right?
This morning, Tucker Carlson, remember who that is?
No.
He's a newscast type show on Fox.
Okay.
Who talks to, people who are like, Fox News is
disclosure.
he's playing the disclosure bit for a little while, so he's been talking about vaccine injuries and what's actually happening to some degree.
Right.
And so he's being attacked, and a big video going all around. He got attacked by a CIA agent in the middle of a restaurant or something for killing so many people by sharing vaccine hesitancy news, So it's like exactly what you said is being promoted, and it looks like, oh, that's totally thing is
let me just finish my point. Okay. So yes, that amount of fear is being spread to people who
spread and promoted
and spread, right, towards non-vaccinated individuals. Okay.
This guy's big, the one that was threatening him.
Okay. Now, why? The reason is to make people afraid. What happens when you go afraid? You lower your frequency. And you enter their game.
They enter their game.
Right? So don't be afraid. Your higher self knows what it's doing. You know what you're doing. And you have the side of Gaia and the high frequency human collective. You're part of that.
Yes.
Both of those things. You're part of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, you have to remember that and go back to your center. Go back to that, go back to your center. And remove yourself from that fear.
Yes.
Because that fear is the game. That's
fear the bait
is the
right
game.
now.
It's the game.
It's the game.
Yeah.
Fear is the game.
Is the low frequency.
Fear is the darkness.
Yes.
So from fear comes righteousness, for example.
Oh, yeah, totally.
From fear comes defense.
Yes.
From fear comes battle.
And victimhood.
Victim, yes.
Yes.
You got both sides of the spectrum are the same.
Yeah.
Because the root is still fear.
Mm-hmm. So know and be conscious and aware that you know what you're doing, and nothing is going to happen to you as long as you don't subscribe to that fear.
So here's a whoops, because occasionally you forget to eat something, and you get to bed late. So you're not being very diligent. I'm not talking about you specifically, because you always are diligent. Mostly always. And in that time of little bit of weakness, you are more susceptible, and your doors are more open to being influenced negatively.
Yes.
So you, whoops, get engaged.
Yes.
So at the extreme whoops, do you got engaged? You engage to the level where you get so mad you drive your car 100 miles an hour and crash and die. Did you just pick the light dark world? Are you stuck forever now?
No.
Oh, thank God.
People die, right?
Yep.
People are going to die, like we talked about before. It's like everybody who's alive right now today is going to die. It's just not at the same time.
How about, here's another hypothetical, because the hypotheticals are the ones that come, right? You don't eat nothing, you don't drink nothing, and you watched a whole bunch of nasty news because you're in the airport trying to go somewhere, and you can't eat that airport food because it's not good, and you can't drink that water because it's poison, and you didn't bring your water. And then you got on that plane, and I mean, you're surrounded by what the shedders are.
Yeah, bunch of
and so now your body is feeling really, really sick. And because of all of that brainwashing, for some reason, in a moment of weakness, you got, oh my God, I am catching that thing. I was wrong. And you run out and get a shot.
Then you're screwed.
Now you're screwed. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
That's falling into fear, then by your own hand taking yourself out.
Yeah, exactly.
Falling into righteousness and having an accident isn't the same. Although
it's kind of playing the low frequency
close.
Game.
It's
right?
close.
Yeah. But it's not like a permanent decision making thing, right?
Yeah.
You probably had an oops. Oopsie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and there are galactic level oopsies, so try not to galactic level oopsie at this point.
Correct.
I mean, the stakes are
pretty high.
pretty high.
What is your job? I mean, let's concentrate not so much on the oopsies you could make, but what is your job right now?
Why are you even here in the first place?
That's a big
right
why.
now?
Why
That's
are you
the point
here?
I'm going to get at. Not the why you might get took out, or why you might die, or why you're with this. Why are you alive, and why are you staying here, and why are you embodying?
Why is it so important that you stay here?
And why is there any importance to staying here or not being here?
Right.
Because alive here is something different than not alive here. True?
Yes, totally.
So what's the difference?
So while you're alive in a physical body, you're influential on the physical universe and the human collective. You cannot be influential without being alive in a physical human body. And you're a light being, and you came here at this point in time to be influential to the human collective and Earth. That's what you came here to do.
So the take you out part is to remove your influence.
Exactly, yeah.
And you came here for the purpose of being an influence.
Yeah, and what is the influence? Pure light. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
So
what you do with that light, you become a writer, you work at McDonald's, you're a gardener, you're an architect, a lawyer. It doesn't matter. You carry on with those activities in high frequency, right? But actually the most important aspect is that you are a light being. And you embody that lightness, that light, as much as you can. throughout your life, throughout every single part of your day.
So what would you suggest to the person who's making hamburgers and loves making hamburgers and, you know, all of their high-frequency friends are saying, well, you should be a healer, you should be a healer, you should be doing this instead. But they really like making hamburgers.
They should do what they like.
That's the highest frequency expression for them.
Exactly.
So what about the ones that are going to be a healer or a teacher or whatever, but they're just doing that because they think that's what their mission is supposed to be. They're supposed to do that. But they don't really have a big passion for doing that. It's just like when you hear about it and as Raise the Frequency of the Planets, it's like, well, got to be a Reiki healer or you got to be a energy healer or a crystal healer or something. Healer, right? Or have classes on that or whatever.
I think that
is that a higher why or a higher impact why than making hamburgers?
It depends on when you step out of. If you're stuck in one of those decisions, step into the group rather than the I, me, and myself.
Right.
Then you think, okay, so what serves my group better? What allows my group to be more empowered? Me making burgers or me doing Reiki healing? Which one?
If you've eaten everybody else's burgers, you'd know the answer to that question.
Your burgers are great.
Yes. So the answer is, if I make good burgers, it's going to make everybody else more happier.
Yeah.
But that means I need to be responsible for my ingredients, and I need to be responsible for my alchemy when I'm cooking it, and the magic that I put in it, and the frequency I put in it. So there's more to the little things than you think, and just making them little things is disempowering them even. Right. That's kind of interesting.
It is.
So the why for now is to embody and be alive now in high frequency.
Yeah, be your
embody
natural self.
The light, be your natural self. The process now seems to be a sorting.
Yeah, we're self-sorting.
Self-sorting into
who wants what.
Who's going to, or who wants what paradigm. It used to be everyone is going to the same paradigm.
Yes. And
that was changed a few years ago.
Yes.
So now there's two paradigms. Now the hard part, the difficult part, I guess, was how do you decide what and how will we choose to do the separation? Because separation's not actually an easy thing.
No, it isn't.
It's not easy for everyone. Or anyone. I suppose from one perspective it might be easier for the dark side, because
not really, because a lot of people who chose the dark side are very compassionate, loving people. It's not easy for them to separate either.
True. It seems like it's above my pay grade, that part. It's like it when you go to think about it and then you actually tap into the complexity of the decision and the involved parties of it. It's like there's 10 trillion variables of how, what, when, where, and putting your name on the dotted line. Pick that. Now the orchestrations come around to bring it to be. Does that seem right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So I remember ages ago, like 2 years, which seems like 2 centuries, we talked about some of these things coming. You were standing in the woods, actually, 2019 in October-ish.
Yeah.
Saying uncharacteristically, because I know I've been listening to you talk for a couple of decades, and generally speaking, it's like, well, it's up to you guys. Do what you like.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, probably, maybe. But, go ahead and do what you like. And in this case, it was like, okay, X, Y, Z, P, D, Q. This is what's coming, and this is what's you need to do. You need to X, you need to Y, you need to Z. They were right work, right food, right company kind of things. It's like, get your shit together.
Start new structures
that will support you.
Work and communication.
Right, because these things are going to be important.
It's important now. I said it was October 2010.
Yes. And you were right.
Yeah.
100%
2019,
right.
sorry.
So people have done that to some degree, and a little less probably to some degree, but they certainly...
The ones who have are dandy right now. There's nothing negative about this split to them.
Right.
Everything's been positive.
Right. So the orchestration of that choice is coming to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the why that you chose, whatever you chose, is now. Now is the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you got another 10 years to work on it. It's like, just do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you alive now? To embody your light.
Exactly, yeah.
And be alive through it.
Right.
And in doing that, you have a universe supporting you.
Yep.
And a planet.
Right.
And the others who are here also to embody their dark light, they also have a set of orchestrations to bring them about. I mean, reality that exists now supports that and supports this.
Exactly, yeah.
All the data they need to make their choice totally, perfectly,
clear,
absolutely certain is there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All the, what we call fake science,
Mm-hmm.
it's there.
Mm-hmm.
They call our science fake.
Yep.
Both of our
That's
sciences are fake to each other.
Yes.
And they're both science.
Yeah, and they're both fine.
And probably they're both true.
Yeah. And the other thing that I would start suggesting people do now that we're in July, August of 2021 is to stop focusing so much on the jab and the decision and people getting sick and people dying and all that stuff and the oppression and all that, and start concentrating on the living ones, the ones that are staying alive, the ones that are staying connected, you know, and like start creating those structures, communication structures, and you know, the work structures, the education structures. Start creating that, or continue creating it, because I know that lots and lots and more every day of people are getting themselves organized to establish food markets that the non-vaxxers can go to, the non-maskers can go to, and educational systems. I've seen it, right? And if you have trained yourself to be a lawyer, legally savvy, or a doctor, medically savvy, and you know what's going on with regards to this split, organize yourself without righteousness and start taking action at a social level, right? So that it's not just a free-for-all for the ones who chose the fear and the negative paradigm, right? Because if we allow ourselves to be walked on, we will be. The other side doesn't have any limits on what they'll do, right? If we give them an inch, they'll take a foot. You know, it's like a mile, actually. You know, so they're not the same. They're not wired the same as we are, right? And now it's literal, not wired the same. And remember, it's like they don't have that compassion or empathy. That's going away from those individuals who got jabbed. And I've seen people like that before, and it's not pretty, and that you can't really function with them, right? It's a different dynamic. You can't really go there, really.
So one of the things I've noticed recently is looks like orchestrating revolution. Do you know what I mean?
An orchestration of revolution?
Orchestrating revolutions or civil wars, that type
of
thing.
Yeah.
So in France, they're pulling out the guillotines and giant wood versions with a slicer thing to chop off their heads and have another French Revolution. Yeah. And through, some large percentage of the population is probably relieved that they're making the non-vaxxed people have to not be able to get any food and not be able to go to the movies and suffer for their selfishness, as they would say. the other side is like, there's our basic human rights, and so they're us against them revolution type feelings, and they feel very, very strongly, both sides.
Yeah. So here's
and the one side is like, I'm not going to give you any food.
So why did you depend on that side to give you food in the first place?
Right.
You should have moved out of the cities when I said so.
I agree. Right. Because, yes.
So here's Here's an interesting one.
Okay.
I've been getting a lot of messages from people saying, oh my gosh, I had no access to this information. Now I do. I got the jab. What do I do?
Oh.
I do not want to go into that dark paradigm, and I'm jabbed.
But they must want to, or else they wouldn't.
And what do I do now? What do I do now?
Oh.
And here's the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of the trap, one of the traps is martyrdom. Okay, and here's a role that you can play if that happened to you. Support the non-vaccinated individuals. Buy them food if in your country they can't buy food.
Oh, you could be the black marketer.
Go to the courts and defend the choice. And they say, oh, no, I chose to get vaccinated, but I defend the choice of people to get it or not get it. Right? And defend human rights around the world. So from the little things, get their shopping. If they can't get work, support them financially. To the big things. Go to court. Demonstrate. Do all these things that, legally and peacefully you can resist or defend the ones that haven't been jabbed.
Wow.
What do you think about that one?
That's the most brilliant thing I've heard ever. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you could even tell yourself, at a higher self, I did this so I'd be a defender of the people and a guardian, right?
There you go.
There you go.
Light worker mission.
Yeah. Now, don't go out and
Don't go martyring yourself to do it.
No. Don't go out and jab yourself. Just
but if you found yourself in a tight spot, you could say, oh, well, for crying out loud.
You can make up for it.
I can make up for that. Easy.
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty brilliant.
It is best that you don't get jabbed at this point from the light dark perspective.
I wonder, and I wish you had some foresight to help see, is like the jabbing part is a clear and obvious choice.
And I don't give medical advice. I'm just following a doctor's advice myself. I follow the advice of Tom Cohen. So.
Right. And what I'm talking about is what is the next by your own hand that will be to the same level of obviousness, do you think?
It's really difficult to tell. There's so much information happening right now. It's difficult to tell that one, but it does feel that it's an armed conflict type thing.
And it feels like that to me too. It's like take up arms.
Yeah. And or placing yourself in vulnerable situations.
Right. Both sides of the same, taking up arms or being a victim of the taking up arms.
Right. If you become a victim,
put yourself in the place where they're going to have a revolution. Because revolutions happen where there's enough people to have a fight. Right? Yeah. They don't happen in the country where there's 10 people because they'll be over in 1 minute. Right. There's 2 people out of the 10 that want to fight, and they take care of each other pretty fast. Yes, they do. But when there's 10,000 or 100,000...
Did you know that Paris, after it was demolished, I can't remember when, after the French Revolution, actually, I think it was, they designed Paris to be created for an ease of troop movements. And a lot of big cities, I know in the UK and in France, they have a highway that is a circle around a city. And those highways, they weren't there to reduce congestion. In fact, they created a lot of traffic congestion. But they were created from a social engineering perspective to be easy to deploy troops into cities. Just saying. This is not like it hasn't been seen that the masses in the population are going to rise up in more revolutionary ways. It has been perceived and seen by social engineers for hundreds of years.
And I think obviously it's being fueled by more and more. I mean,
it's funny, isn't it? It's like the locations. I mean,
yeah.
the French are known for being. You can push them so far, and then it's over, right?
Right.
The French Revolution wasn't a coincidence. It's part of that collective. Okay, push me so far, and I'll be really nice, and I'll make good food, and everything else is going to be great, and I speak very well, and all the rest, and I'm a civilized, and I have art, and all the rest. But it comes to a point that it's over, right? It comes to a point when it's over.
Yep, and it doesn't feel like those who are pushing it to that point aren't completely and totally aware that that's what they're doing.
Happening.
That's the purpose and the point.
Well, yeah. And
so
at
when
the moment,
you fall
that
into
country, that country's getting really, really, really.
Oh yeah, they put
oppressed.
The screws down as tight as you could. Yeah. You would never imagine they would screw them down that tight.
Because they're doing that. They're stimulating that uprising.
Trying to spark it off.
And my thoughts are to spark it off to create that next wave, but also from a perspective of an example to the rest of the world. This is what happens if you organize yourself into a revolution, right? Because they have the technology now to control the masses from weaponry.
I had thought one of the purposes of having a revolution was so that they could bring in the New World Order, one world government, whatever, their troops, Because oftentimes, like in the U.S., they can't bring those in. But if they have a civil war, they probably could. That would be their excuse for bringing in because to get the maximum effect, right, you can't get your own soldiers to shoot your own people.
Not in the US, but in every other country. I think that doesn't exist. Everybody has their armies in their own countries.
So an army in England can shoot Englishmen?
Yeah.
And they will?
Yeah.
Happily?
Probably. If they're indoctrinated enough. I've seen it happen.
I imagine it can happen, but I don't think it's as easy. That's why you have to get foreign troops to do it. But getting foreign troops in is not as easy without an invasion, But if you have a good revolution or civil war, then you have an excuse for international troops, and those ones they can use to shoot each other.
Right.
Because they're not going to feel so bad. They're stopping the
They've been doing it
revolutionary.
They've been doing that for decades and decades and decades, right?
Yeah. It's got to be something different, You're attacking a different
nation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you talk about things like this, you go, well, why would I, and this is an important thing, why would I choose to be alive in some form of a war, a revolutionary war? I mean, why would I choose to be alive then? I think I remember you said something about in your own experience, if that came, you'd be like, okay, take me out, I'm gone.
Yes.
I'm not here for that shit.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all.
I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, and if it's like, it's like, again, when you take yourself out of the I, me, and myself, and you go more global, things start make more sense, and then you can see a larger perspective.
And also, like the subway, there is, and maybe, and probably will be, that revolutionary experience in the city. But it isn't that same experience like uniformly across the entire everywhere. Have you ever drove from city to city? Like 1,000 miles of nothing.
Yeah.
There's no revolution in that middle.
Right.
It's there and there. It's the seas of the city where there's enough people to have it. Enough purpose.
And what do those things happen? Because it's almost like setting up, have you ever seen films or even in real life the cockfights? They bring in the cockfights.
Not really. I mean,
dog fights.
Maybe for 1 or 2 seconds because I would never watch it.
Right. But you'd heard about them, right? And like in movies, sometimes they show them.
Yeah.
Right? So see it that way, right? Because
you have to gather to have the fight.
Yeah, right.
Without the gathering, there won't be a fight.
Exactly. And also, it's like these individuals who are not thinking from a higher self perspective go for the fight, and there's an audience watching them, right? And it also generates a certain energy. It generates an energy of war, fight, fear, adrenaline. All those things, all those energies are very low frequency.
So that's something people who are drawn to that might process.
Righteousness and not going for the fight.
Well, what I mean is like
go for the construction.
Boxing and MMA and
gladiators.
Gladiators.
Do you want to keep the masses happy? Give them gladiators. Give them the games. Right?
So some people see a fight happening over on the dock and they all got to run up and look at it. And I see that and I turn around and I'm like repulsed by it.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's repulsive to me.
Yeah.
But it's not that I'm better or worse or this. It's just, to me, it's a visceral repulsion. Yeah. And other people, I notice, they have this irresistible attraction to it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is that?
That's part of the programming.
That's programming?
Yeah.
So if you do have that, what do you do about it if you don't want to keep it?
You process it.
Do you think that it removes it from being a fascination, or are they actually fascinated and they got to go like, fight, 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 fight? You know, you see that and you hear that.
Right. So one of the things that is happening there is a reaction. You want to be able to respond.
They're stimulated by that and
it's a reaction. You need to respond. Learn to respond rather than react.
Okay.
So once I was in Nottingham, that's where I grew up in England, and it was Sunday, I think, and there was a football game called soccer here in the United States. Mm-hmm. And me and this other person were walking in the city, and the match was over, and the gates were open, and all the fans came out. And in England at the time, there was an issue and a problem with football hooligans.
Yeah.
So on match days, the entire city would close down, and they would put like panels on their windows and things, because, and I mean, I don't know if they showed it here in the United States, but as the crowds came out of the football fields, the stadiums, the soccer stadiums, they would literally destroy the city, right? And
it's good for the repairman.
And we were right smack in the middle of the city, right down one of the streets where the crowds would come out of the stadium. And we were standing there, and it was all quiet one moment, and there was a cop walking past us, and then he stops, and his arms go out, and this is before they armed the cops in England. And he looked at us and says, "Get against the wall." And he goes, puts his arms out, and this crowd of hooligans came rushing down, beating each other up, and with boards, I don't know where they got, sticks and things, they were beating. It was brutal. And some of them were trying to pull out the boards from windows so they could smash into the stores, but others would take them out. It was like a wave of violence. And I was standing there. I wasn't fast enough to get against the wall. I was just standing, watching it all happen around me.
Yeah.
Like fascinated in a way of, wow, what's happening here, right? And the person I was with, they got against the wall, and they were like trying to hide because they looked like a hooligan. So they didn't want to engage, right?
Right.
And they knew that if anybody looked into his eyes, it was going to be an engagement.
Yeah.
So he just stood against the wall, looking away, so that it wouldn't engage him. But I was smack in the middle. It was like looking at everybody, and everybody. I mean, they were all men, right? Mm-hmm. A couple of big burly women, but most of them were men, just doing all this violence. And then the wave was gone, and there was just chaos left behind. You know.
Yeah.
Some people on the ground, moaning and covered in blood, and some things smashed against the boards on the windows and the stores. And the cop was like a few feet from me, and he just lifted his shoulders, looked at me, and it's like,
Can't do anything.
He shook his head a little bit, and, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, are you?" He says, "Yeah, sorry, I couldn't do anything." He says, "Gosh, I don't think anybody expected you to." And if he looks at me and says, "I guess you guys should go home, really. I wouldn't stay in the town today." I said, "Yeah, I think you're right." So we left, right? But sometimes it's like that. You are smack in the middle. You are smack in the middle, but for some reason or another, you don't engage, right? And at that time, I did have that warrior thing, but it was so nonsensical and so stupid. The fight, I just couldn't. I didn't engage from that perspective, but also it was fascinating to me to see it. It's like I wasn't in fear or anything, but it was like, whoa, what is this? You know, what's happening here? Why are they doing this? And you know, but I could see the person I was with. They knew it. They knew that energy. They knew what's going on, and he knew exactly what to do. Right? He just went against the wall and faced the wall, and did not look back, did not look behind him, because he was like that, covered in tats and strong and big and broken nose, and you know, like that type of person. Most of the hooligans were like that, so they would have seen him immediately.
Went for him.
Yeah, just for the fight. And you could tell, I mean, these hooligans, they were wearing colors, so they could tell which ones to fight each other, right?
Right.
The soccer match, the soccer team colors, right? So it's all like orchestrated, it's all created, right? And all these things, including the hooliganism in those 80s, was designed to keep the masses entertained. Right, give them games. You know, the masses are angry at you for raising their taxes. Give them the games, right? Give them games. Give them the Romans invented it, right? Give them the what's it called? The games they had, the fighting and
the gladiator games.
The gladiator games, yeah. Give them those, and that developed into the other games. You know, soccer, football, and all the other very popular.
So do you join the revolution? Do you pick up your card and stand up for people's God-given rights to have food, vaccinated or not?
Well, that's different, right? You're not going to fight. You're going to construct. You're going to do something else. Step out of righteousness for sure.
Well, right? Kind of joining the revolution is righteousness,
no.
Isn't it?
Yeah, well, revolution.
Exactly. Their right is everyone should be vaccinated in order to be around other people, and your right is
human
we
rights.
Should have food,
right.
Whether or not we're vaccinated.
Right.
So you're both being righteous.
But the level of the energy of righteousness is very different to being right. So you go from warrior to guardian. It's a highly, highly different energy.
That's going to need a lot of exploring.
Well, another podcast maybe to explore the warrior versus
the guardian. Yeah, because the tendency is to believe or to accept passivity.
And here's another
as
one for
the
you.
most light. What?
Here's another one for you.
Okay.
Part of that social engineering that's been happening on the planet for 100 to 200 years or so, or more, is to remove the alpha males from the population.
Successfully too.
Yes. Because at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, it's alpha males who chop the heads off.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's the alpha males who you can't easily engage into a fight. You can't easily engage them into a fight. Because they know they're going to win. So they're just like, yeah, but you can see. I remember once I saw this little video. It was a documentary, and it was a male lion somewhere in Africa, and there was a couple of cubs, and they kept going at him, and he was laying in the sun, and they kept biting his ears and his tail and jumping on him, these two little cubs, and he was like moving every now and then. He'd pull one away, and they'd come back, and then he turned over and just played with them, and play wrestle with them a little bit, and then that, and then eventually he kind of, you could tell in his change of behavior, he kind of sat in a way that it's like, okay, I'm done, right? But they didn't stop. And then his teeth came out, and a growl that was so deep, and both cubs just stopped, completely stopped, and then one lay down over, and the other one ran away, right, to play with some other cubs. But it was like that, it's like the alpha male will do so much and will put up with a lot. I mean, in that video, he put up with so much. They were biting him, and even his lips, biting at his lips and pulling, and you can see it pulled out and everything. And you can put out with a love, but when it's over, it's over.
Yep.
Right? And that's why they've been doing a lot of stuff for many years, including the cruelty of circumcision on new baby boys in a lot of all of the United States, I believe, but many other countries, because that is the first step of subjugating the male, right? Traumatize him for life. And from that point forward, and all the hormones and things in processed foods,
probably the glyphosate.
Yep, yeah, and all the soy products being
the vegetarian
diet, everything like that. It's all designed to take away that alpha male, but also wars. I mean, when somebody tells a man who's, is an alpha male, say, your country and your ideals need defending, of course he's going to do it. So they go into the army, right? And then they destroy them, because wars and things and armies are there to destroy alpha males and alpha females too, right? But to a lesser degree. But the alpha male has been the target of the social engineers of light dark paradigm for decades and decades, hundreds of years. So that's another one.
My goodness.
Yeah. You done?
I'm a bit saturated.
You're saturated, too much information.
Yeah.
But these are data points.
Data points, and I think the most important data point for those who are actually listening. I mean, data points are relevant and important to understand because at some point it clicks. It's like
that?
It clicks. Clicks right in. You get it. It's like, okay, I understand there's a lot of orchestrations going on to bring out a split.
Yes.
A split in reality. It took not just a week, not just a month. It's been a few hundred years or even 1,000. I don't know. More than...
Here's the thing.
Yesterday we decided, today we're going to do. It's like the circumstances to bring about this orchestration have been and are many and varied.
Yes.
Because the one thing for sure on this planet, we love to have a huge, massive variety of experiences, all with the same theme, but with many different, I guess, narratives. Yeah. Our narrative. The narrative for me to pick this is going to be blah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a trillion blahs, trillion stories, all of them leading to I picked that or I picked that. So, from that perspective, all of the orchestrations that are, all of these, get rid of the alphas and all of those are, in a sense, to bring about this orchestration. Because, honestly, without a lack of alphas running around, there wouldn't be the opportunities for the light darks to go pick in a light dark stuff, because the alphas would have led them out of it.
Yes.
That's an example, right?
That's an example, yeah.
So it's not...
They would have been standing every
village,
block,
every place would have a no, you will not pass here.
Yeah.
This is not right, and it will not go.
Exactly.
And the leaders wouldn't be the most corrupted that could be. The system wouldn't be stacked to make that be the ones who make... It's like some guy 100 or 1,000 miles from you says, you can't leave your house. Who the hell are you to listen? What? Are you kidding me? What do you care what he says?
Right, exactly.
But some people do.
Because they're afraid.
Because they're afraid or because they're whatever, but that's the orchestration that they wanted.
Yeah.
So we'll just let them have their orchestration. Our why is one very clear thing. To bring about a light-filled Gaia.
And you do that by embodying.
Embodying
light. It's
a
not something that happens
Gaia.
outside of you.
You embody a light-filled Gaia.
It's not something that happens inside of you.
What do you mean inside of you?
It's something you make happen.
Yes, embody a light-filled Gaia. Embody that light-filled Gaia.
Yes.
Right. Can we just leave it there for a minute?
Okay. I mean, social engineering is one of my passions because that's part of my lineage, right?
Yeah.
The Amada lineage.
Right.
Where they were social engineers, architects, social architects. And so it's one of my passions. I'm very fascinated by it, and I like to see how it works out. But yeah, I can talk about for hours. I can OD people on it.
Well, I'm not so much OD'd on that. I want to keep
keep in focus.
I wanted to return us to
the why.
a light-filled Gaia and why. Why are we alive?
Why are we here?
It
today?
isn't to embody a light-dark reality.
No.
It's to embody a light-filled Gaia.
Yeah.
And the light-dark reality, these are some of the baits.
We have to release them, yeah.
These are the baits. Don't bite.
Don't bite. Yeah.
Don't bite. You're not here for that. You're
right.
here for something else.
Exactly. Yeah.
Be here for that something else.
Yeah.
So, yes, data points. We got to talk about them so that you know them. Mm-hmm. You know they're there. You know what they're in. They're not a trick because they're clearly seen and understood for what they are.
Yeah.
So that's the purpose of exploring the data points, in my mind. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. From the an example also, and I didn't quite go into the full story of it, from the hooligans in Nottingham. Remember that story?
Yep.
So the guy I was with, he got to the wall and I didn't. Remember I said that I didn't make it to the wall. I was in the middle of the street.
You're right in the middle of the hooligans.
Yeah, in the middle of the street. But he made it to the wall, and you might think, well, why didn't he just grab your hand and pull you to the wall, right? Mm-hmm. Do you know why?
No.
Because he was so much like one of them that if I was next to him, if he didn't manage to stay invisible, he would have got us both attacked.
Yep. I
was better off in the middle of the street, so in a safer position, because I'm pretty and small, and men usually, even if they're fighting with each other, they wouldn't attack a pretty woman standing in the middle of the street in a pretty dress. Right? That's the natural kind of, and it didn't. Right? It was like a little island. They would avoid, as they were punching each other, they would punch each other away from me. Right? It was weird as I was staring at them. And I wasn't staring at them with fear in it. I was just fascinated by it all.
Well, it's probably more like a mosh pit than anything else, isn't it?
A what?
Mosh pit.
What is that?
When you go to a punk band concert, to have a mosh pit in the middle of the front, and everybody runs in there and smashes into each other and gives each other bad lips and bloody mouths and all that.
Yes.
Mosh pit.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the best time ever, is go
For
smash
them,
into each other.
Oh yeah, they were having a great time.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they purposely went there to have that experience.
Right. Precisely.
Yeah.
They went to the game, and then the after game is we'll run down the street and beat the shit out of everything.
Exactly.
Including ourselves and each other.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can probably sense in a mosh pit too. I haven't been in one, but I can imagine that you know who's there for that and who's not.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why I would have been in more danger next to this guy than I was in the middle of the street. I was highly visible, right, in my pretty dress.
Yeah, you were obviously not. And in the other case, you would have been maybe yes.
Yeah. And if I'd gone into any type of fear, it would have been a yes, because then you go into that frequency.
Alrighty.
Because it wasn't just men, right? There was some big burly women there too, smashing each other's noses. Well, not each other's, but right in there with men. It's one of the things about British women, and Irish women. The ones that are in for a fight, my God, they're big and burly and they're brutal. Yeah.
Okay, well, next week I guess we'll talk about whether you join the revolution or not, huh?
Right. But anyway, that point, what I was trying to convey there was, if you don't engage at the level of fear, even if the fight is happening all around you, you're going to be fine. Do you see?
Sure, but that's a pretty tall order. In the running
but
of the bulls, you don't stand out there and don't stall the bulls. Just get out of there. Don't go there.
Oh, yeah. That's much better, right?
Well,
but if you do...
But if you find yourself in the running of the bulls, I mean, you really have only one chance. One thing you can do. If you can...
Bulls are different. Right. If there had been bulls coming at me, I would have. I don't know where I would have done. I wouldn't have stood there in the middle of the street.
Well,
Although it happened so fast that I couldn't even reach the wall because there was like wall of men between me and the wall. You know, it happened so quickly. It just suddenly they were not there, and the next moment they were. You know.
Well, I think if you're the bulls and you're instantly in the way, you kind of like have to become a tree.
Yes.
I'm not a person. I'm a tree. Nothing to get.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But that's the energy, you know. It's like just don't engage. Don't engage. Be that rock in the river. Be the island in the middle of the storm. You have to stay in that space.
But why, if you know it's coming, would you stay for it? It's like, do you remember the story when your parents were told?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Why would you stay, for God's sake?
Right. That's in a city, but I'm talking about generally on this planet. We are on the planet, okay? We are on the planet, so don't go into fear and move the toxicity away from you, right? So don't start feeding fear into your head all the time.
Well, yeah, sure, I totally agree with you. But if you're invited to to a revolution, do you go?
No.
If you know a revolution is coming, do you stay for it?
No.
So if you found yourself stayed for it, then you have to...
Do you mean a revolution in a city, right? No.
Right.
Yeah, no. But there is a split happening on this planet, and we are freaking well staying. But when we stay in that center.
Mm-hmm.
We stay solid in our center on the planet. I think we're just talking about it in different levels of experience. I think you were very much in the city.
I'm thinking about where the playground is for a revolution.
Right.
The playground is where there's enough people to have a
definitely
revolution.
And I would totally stay out of there. Right.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. But I'm not moving out of this planet.
No, we're not moving off the planet. No, definitely
And within this planet, if you're in the country, you stay centered, you stay focused, you stay out of the fear mongering and out of the fear control. So you use the fear processing exercise.
What about countries who seem to have devolved into the entire revolution? Even within those countries, is there areas that's fine?
Yeah, there are.
That's what I thought. It's like, I was just listening to a lady who was in Chile the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And for her, she's like, they're trying to use this to get rid of the Mapuche because even the Spanish didn't manage it.
Right.
And then the new Chilean government didn't manage it either. It's like, okay, you guys do things. But now they're using this as a way to create a lever to remove the Mapuche's rights to land, for example.
They're always trying that, yeah.
You know, by bringing in soldiers and, having a revolution. So what do you do there?
Mm-hmm.
What do they do there? Do you stay there for that? Do you leave? How do you disengage from that level of, it's like a countrywide or your territory, It's not the city, but it's your territory too.
Yeah. One of the things you have to understand is no victim aggressors here on this planet, okay? And the Mapuche are warriors, and if they're still warring, then the battle's going to come to their land, okay? So, and they're moving out of that warrior perspective and going into other areas of defense, right?
Oddly enough.
Into the guardian rather than the warrior. And some of them are being very, very effective. Some of the Mapuche tribes are being very effective in that. So, you can't generalize in that sense.
Well, they're also trying to remove the part of the constitution or whatever where Mapuches can only sell land to other Mapuches so that the mining company can buy it.
Actually, that never was.
Well, it says...
I don't know if it's there now, but when I lived
part
in
of it
Chile...
now, the Mapuche have to sell to another Mapuche. They're not allowed to sell it to a non-Mapuche. Sort of like Nia Bay, we can't sell it to a non-Macaw.
Yeah.
But the minute that you could, guess what happens?
Because from what I understood, is that all of the Mapuche land was taken away from them, and then it was kind of people... it was put in family names, right? But when I was going to buy some land that was next to the reservation in the south of Chile, and it belonged to Mapuche, they could sell it to anybody. But yeah, maybe you're right. If you had been inside the res, they wouldn't have been able to. But it was just outside it. But it was still Mapuche land, and she had to ask the permission of the Machi to get the right buyers. So the buyers had to be interviewed by the Machi.
Right. So they're moving, the fourth industrial revolution is moving from, oil-based to lithium and rare earths and batteries and things like that. So the minerals that are in the Andes are
oh my gosh,
so hugely valuable.
Huge, yeah.
And of course they've been working on them for a couple hundred years in the places that they have been working, and the places they haven't been working are in control of Mapuches. And Mapuches can't sell it to a mine because the miners and the mining company isn't Mapuche, obviously. Nor would they want to. But some would.
Some would, I'm sure, yeah.
Some,
$1 billion, thank you very much.
$1 billion? Okay, I'll sell. It's yours. So they're using this particular time to try to rewrite that so the Mapuches can sell their land to a mining company so they can get the rare earths and, So in that case, this is another case. Let's be similar in a sense. Let's say you're a Mapuche. Let's just say.
Okay.
And you're looking for and embodying a light-filled Gaia. And they're trying, what's being tried to bring about is this Chinese mining company to make a bunch of batteries for Tesla. I'm just saying, I don't know if they're doing that or not. But it's a narrative you could believe. Do you join the revolution and say no? Or do you passively not engage in the fight and the battle because in a matter of a year or two it'll be irrelevant? Or what do you do?
Yeah.
Tough one, right?
Yeah, because there's so many different scenarios there, and I don't know the laws anymore that are happening, and I don't know which each tribe, how they would make the decision or how they would do it. I know that a lot of the Mapuches have they have been the target of the Chilean government for decades. I mean, it didn't matter which one. The only one that gave them rights was the Allende one in the 1970s. But after he was murdered and killed and the Senate killed, Pinochet went in and took all their rights away. And they've been put in jail and tortured and killed for decades, and they're still happening. Even today, the so-called democratic governments are still jailing them and torturing them and killing them. So, what can I tell you?
I know, it's what I'm saying. It's like they're not in the city.
No.
But the revolution's coming to them.
Yeah, and it hasn't not coming to them. It's been there for decades, right? Yeah. And it has to do with that. I mean, they're there to, as far as they're concerned, to defend Gaia, and that's the culture, right?
Right.
Let's see
so
what happens.
The answer to the question is it's a very complex question.
It is very complex, and
every situation.
I can tell you from here, from the Maca tribe, the majority got vaccinated. I don't know what the situation is with Mapuches, right? Did the Machis tell them to vaccinate or not? I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't have enough data to be able to answer that question.
So if your set point is embody a light-filled Gaia, then the answer of what you should do probably comes, although each situation is different.
Exactly, yeah.
And you don't engage in low-frequency fear,
rage,
anger, and righteousness, and victimhood, and martyrhood, and things like that. Right. But you do extend your horizon of. So, for example, the house is on fire. It's 90% burnt down. Do you put it out?
I wouldn't.
What's the point? It's over.
It's over.
Right? There's no point in going in and putting out the last 10% of the house fire and risking your life and your limb and engaging in heroics and martyrdom and all that other stuff where the last 10% is burning down. Just let it burn.
Yeah.
But the corner of the house is on fire. And you love your house. Put the fire out. A little squirt.
Yeah, there you go.
Depends on the situation.
It does, yeah.
Right.
Very much. Very much so.
Okay, so the answer is there's many answers.
Yeah.
A lot of things to take consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Embody a light-filled Gaia, best of your ability.
Right. And avoid violent conflict. Do not physically attack people. Right?
Right.
Do not go there, because that's their game. That's a low frequency game. You don't want to feed that. Don't feed the beast.
Don't feed the beast.
There's always other ways.
Let it crumble.
Let that crumble for sure.
Let that crumble for sure. Don't let a light-filled Gaia crumble.
No.
No. Well, somehow or other, in spite of the why being very clear, I'm a bit wobbly. I think this is going to have to sit for a little while.
Okay.
And we'll stew on it for the week and let it percolate. And hopefully by the end of the week, next week, whatever wave seems to be coming through, which is making things very unsettled in my own head and my own body, and those seems like some people around me too. Mm-hmm. Maybe that wave will have passed of, how the big surf is. It's like real big surf this weekend. Yeah. I mean, it's not, but our river is dry in our backyard, no. Which is never happens. And
the big river is dry.
We'll let the surf crash, and it washes up on the beach, and then it comes back down, and then you go down to the beach and you find all the gems. Mm-hmm. Let's go look for the gems next week. Okay. Because I'm a bit saturated.
All right.
How about you?
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Oh, thank you, honey.
Love you, darling.
Love you too.